This is Feed Yourself, and I'm Matt.
And I'm Payne.
Today we're making smashburgers and duck head fries.
Yeah, you're goddamn right.
So we're starting with making the French fries. So we're using russet potatoes here. When you're making French fries, why do you choose russets?
Russet potatoes. They make really good French fries. They're the right size. There's, the starch, science, stuff like that. I don't know. They make good French fries.
They make real good French fries.
So go ahead and baton those up. I went ahead and cut off the little brown parts just because I personally don't love them. You can totally eat them. But yeah, just go ahead and make some sort of 1/4 to 1/2 inch batons out of some potatoes. And what's important here is that you really just find the biggest vegetable cleaver you can to do your prep work with.
And now you're just adding cold water to these, right?
Yep, just cold water to kind of wash some of the starch off the surface so they brown up real nice in the oil.
So for like 2 hours, I think we did?
Yep, just about. The spilling, it adds...
Don't forget.
It's important because then you have to clean it up and it takes forever and there's starchy water all over everything.
So for our ground beef, we're grinding our own beef and we're using 1 ribeye and 1 chuck roast. I guess our fat to lean ratio is probably closer to 70-30 than 80-20, which is usually what you find when you're buying ground beef from the store. And just the higher fat content, the more flavor you're gonna get, really.
Fat is flavor. We're just gonna cube all of this up. I'm just gonna put it into basically 1-inch cubes, and then you're gonna wanna throw it on a wax paper lined baking tray and pop this whole ordeal in the freezer for at least 2 to 3 hours. You're really gonna want these to be pretty firm. All right, so let's take a look at fry seasoning. We've got a Cajun blend, and that's just equal parts salt, pepper, paprika, cayenne, oregano, onion powder, and garlic powder, and we'll just set that aside for now.
And then this here is the special sauce for the cheeseburger. And that's just gonna be 3 parts mayo to 2 parts ketchup to 1 part mustard. And we used Dijon, but really you can use deli mustard, yellow mustard, doesn't really matter.
No such thing as a bad mustard.
No.
Just get it in there.
Yep. And we do add some pickle brine, some chopped pickles, and some garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and a little bit of paprika to this as well. Yep.
So there you go. That's the secret, everyone. You rub it all over yourself. I don't care what you do with it.
No.
Yeah.
It's a free country,
Yeah.
It'd probably be great, honestly.
Yeah.
It's probably good for your skin. So now we're gonna do the par fry, the first fry on the French fries.
Yep, so you're gonna wanna bring a mixture of canola oil and duck fat up to about 350 degrees. So what we're doing is actually cutting it with canola oil to bring that smoke point up and also to increase the volume because duck fat is a little pricey, a little more pricey than your average cooking oil. So this is a good way to really get your money's worth while also getting that really great duck fat flavor. Really only fill your vessel up about halfway to ensure that you don't get any boilovers and, burn your house down or something. That would be not so fun. So, always be safe with hot oil, please. It's not a joke. It can really hurt people / destroy everything you love. So,
So we bring it up to temperature, and then we're gonna just drop the fries. We've pulled them from the water, we've let them dry, and we're just gonna drop them into the oil and just let them fry in small batches until they have some more color. That's really all you're looking for is color. And we're par frying because it helps to sort of break down the structure of the inside of the potatoes so they get fluffier when you fry them for the second time. So we par fry them and then we freeze them for a couple of hours to get them as hard as possible. And that rapid expansion and contraction inside the potatoes will just help to break down that starch structure and result in a much fluffier center while keeping a really crispy exterior. And now it's time for the veggies. So we're just doing white onion, Roma tomatoes, and Boston Bibb.
Yep, I'm just gonna go ahead and prepare and mandolin this white onion. This was a really big one, so I had to cut it down a little to fit the handguard. you know, really the important thing here is that you want just about as thin as you can go with an onion. And if you have great knife skills, you don't even need to use the mandolin. If you don't own one, no big deal. Just get as thin as you can go with your chef's knife. But if you've got the equipment, I highly recommend using a mandolin. Get that really, really thin onion slice. It's gonna go great on the burgers with how fast they cook.
So we're using Roma tomatoes just because I think Payne and I both think they're just
We like them.
They're the better tomato.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they're meaty, they're flavorful. They're not gonna get your food wet when you're putting your tomatoes on them.
None of that weird tomato goop that nobody likes.
Yeah.
And then we're using Bibb lettuce here. Honestly, use whatever you like, whatever you got. Even something like arugula could work here. Yeah, pick your poison.
Yep, it's just lettuce.
I'm not God or your dad. Do whatever you want.
I might be one of those. I don't know.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and grind our heavily chilled steak cubes now. And a really important thing to remember is to have any idea how a food processor works before you start this process, because I really just had an awful time with such a simple machine. And I'm not sure if that says more about me or the machine, but either way, what you're gonna do is just pulse the cubed beef in a food processor until it gets this really awesome, pebbly, dry consistency. As you'll see here in the video feed. You want to work in batches because you don't want to overwork your food processor, and just
it will burn the motor up.
It will burn the motor up. It should look the way it looks on camera, which is really nice and dry and pebbly. That's gonna make for a great burger.
It's just something that you cannot get from store-bought ground beef.
Nope, not even pre-daily ground. It's that freshness is gonna bring something to your burger that really you can't get any other way.
So we're throwing the fries back in. They've been in the freezer for a couple of hours. They're frozen all the way through, and we're dropping them into some 350-degree oil.
And you're gonna wanna take those right out of the freezer while they're still really cold and let them hit that oil. Again, small batches, same as before.
There's not really a surefire way to get the timing down.
No, there really isn't a time. Your pan and your stove are gonna be different, so just keep an eye on them. Obviously, do not walk away from a pot full of hot oil, and just when they look delicious and crispy brown, just pull them on out.
Try one.
Try one. Try
really,
a few.
Just it's
as
easy as that.
You'll end up eating a few while you make them.
Yeah. And so now we're just gonna toss those hot fries with all of that Cajun seasoning that we prepared earlier.
Yep, and it's really important to toss them while they are really hot, and to eat one, like I just did right there. It's really important to toss them while they're very hot and the oil is still hot, because that is going to make that seasoning blend cling to the fries, as opposed to just sort of sit at the bottom of the bowl. Yeah, it'll take your fries from okay to really great. So, big bowl, give them a toss. You're going to like the way you look. So I don't really measure much when I'm cooking. I just go for a lightly packed handful. It's usually about 6 ounces of beef, more or less. It doesn't really matter. We're not running a restaurant here. So just, make some beef balls. Please don't season them. Just leave it as only beef. It's much better for the consistency of the finished burger.
And when you're forming these patties, you're not, I can see you're not like smashing them in. You're keeping some air in there.
Right. It's important that you keep the beef uncompacted and light and sort of fall apart-y, if I may be so bold, because that's a loose grind.
So now, arguably, one of the most important steps in making a cheeseburger is toasting the buns.
Toast your buns. Just do it. Toast your buns.
Very often, I get burgers that have buns that are untoasted, and it's frankly unacceptable.
It shows a lack of character.
It does.
I think, yeah. You should make every cheeseburger like you're making it for your mother. Would you not toast the buns if you were making your mother a cheeseburger? You tell me.
You don't toast your buns, you're a bad son.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're salting the patties right before you put them into the cast iron.
And not a moment before. You're gonna wanna be medium-high heat, not so much that you're smoking out your house, but you want a good sear here, and the only way to get that is a very well preheated cast iron. Give it 15 minutes on the stove, let it get warm all the way through before you even think about cooking on it.
And we're just gonna be pressing the burgers in with a cast iron meat press.
Right, and if you don't have a cast iron press or you don't have a grill press, the bottom of a small saute pan works fine.
A spatula, pushing it down with a dowel rod.
Anything you have. really, but we prefer something heavy and flat. And you just go ahead and top that with some onions, or you can press them right in if you feel so inclined. I do that on the second one here. So when the patty is on its first side and it's searing away, that beefy steam coming off the burger is gonna start to soften those onions. It's gonna impart some flavor, and then I'm gonna go ahead and flip it here in just a second, and you'll see the crust I get. In part because you wait. It should be 3/4 of the way cooked on its first side by the time you flip it. And when you do, you're just really flipping it to melt the cheese, American cheese, and really nothing else. You should use American cheese. It helps the burger hold together. It's delicious. It melts great. Use it. The God King himself, Kenji Alt Lopez, goes into detail about how you can make your own processed cheese and what the process of basically you're binding the cheese to a starch or some sort of science witchcraft I don't understand, and that makes it melt and not get oily the way that harder cheeses do. I don't pretend to understand these things. Please just use a craft single. But yeah, really, you're just gonna flip that burger only to sort of saute the onions and let that beef just kind of finish cooking. They should be most of the way done by the time you flip them.
And I feel like a lot of people are worried about undercooking or perhaps overcooking their burgers
when they're this thin and you have great beef. You really, as long as you get that first side nice and crusted and you wait, like we say, and you give it time to develop that crust, by the time you flip it, that burger's done. And even if it does spend a little longer in the pan, you'll be fine.
Why burgers? Why are they so important?
You know, I made a lot of them coming up. I worked at a burger joint in college. I came up flipping burgers. I love a well-executed cheeseburger. And like anything, it's simple, but when you get the little things right, it shows. And it's a pursuit of perfection. It's my stone that I'm rolling up the mountain.
So, what is it about cooking for yourself that you find so compelling?
Well, I think it's just about, I love food as an art form. I love it as a science. And then on top of all of that, getting to share what you learn and make with people you care about. I don't know. I just think it's really special. And I love cheeseburgers on top of all of that. So it's just a win all around.
And what a cool thing it is to be able to feed yourself and feed the people around you.
Just like the title of this show. Feed yourself, folks. That's all we got. Thanks for coming today. You guys have been great.
We'll be here all week.
Yeah, try the veal.